This is, we do these empathy panels about 3 times a year. Does that sound right? 3 times or 4 times? 4 times a year. And they're an important part of treatment for domestic violence folks on probation in Boulder County. It is a mandatory part of domestic violence treatment if you're on probation in Boulder County. I'm Ted Bradshaw from Community Justice Services. We're a partner criminal justice agency. We're up at the end of the building, up the hall there. The panel you witnessed tonight is the result of ongoing efforts by representatives from a number of the partner criminal justice agencies in Boulder County, including our safe houses, which are Safe Shelter, which is out in Longmont, and SPAN, which is here in Boulder. The victim service provider community helps us out. My division has input, probation department, the private probation providers, that's Intervention and Armands, and our district attorney's office. The panel tonight is intended to help increase your awareness of and your empathy for survivors and victims of domestic violence. The first speaker is Shelley, and she works primarily with child witnesses and victims of domestic violence out at Safe Shelter in Longmont. And after we hear from Shelley, we're going to hear from Randy, Valerie, and Shauna. And they're going to talk to you about their experiences as victims of domestic violence and how the DV they experienced affected them and continues to affect them.
It's probably been about 19, I think going on 20 years when I first started to work with child victims of domestic violence. So I'm here tonight just to share a little bit of insight with you about the different things that I've seen and some things that might be helpful for you to know. The toolkit is basically all that is picture an empty toolbox up here, and that every time children watch interactions between mom and dad, every time they watch their role models do certain things, they're putting things into that toolbox, and that's how they may work on solving problems later on. We think we have time to deal with that, and we may think, oh, this relationship has some problems. We've really got to watch how we're doing this negotiating. We can't do this way for too long. But every interaction that they see, they're putting different tools into that toolbox. And I'll give you some examples because we are seeing some things that are starting to happen already with kids in their school relationships and with friendships. And there may even be some parallels between adult and child relationships.
And first we'll hear from Randy.
We find these panels to be very, not only informative for you folks, but also very good for us speaking here as a panel, because in many respects, a lot of the things that we went through during the times that we went through, nobody wanted to hear about it. I remember thinking this was a pretty nice guy. There wasn't any type of violence, but ultimately my mom stopped seeing him, and she told me, she said, you know, Randy, it's largely because he's starting to do things that your father was doing, and that really frightened me at the time, and I was very concerned. Ultimately, she made that decision to move on. The next time I saw this person, he was breaking into our home, and he shot everybody in our home. He ultimately murdered my mother in front of me. He severely paralyzed myself and my sister and her boyfriend, who just had the terrible misfortune of being there that night. And I say all these things because I was able, now looking back, at seeing where the progression of this began. That is to say, you know, it began with somebody wanting power and control over one person. And it began with that person losing it in their mind and began using some type of violence and threats to try to keep that person in line.
Thanks, Randy, and next we'll hear from Valerie.
Okay, I was wondering today, why do I do this to myself? Because for the entire day, I'm on the verge of tears. And then I started to remember that my dad stole my tears for most of my life because I knew better than to cry. I grew up in an alcoholic home that was often violent. I never knew when I came home from school if my mom was still going to be alive. like Randy said, I don't know why any of you are here. And maybe I guess I want for you what I wanted for my dad. For you to raise up and be the man that you can be if you choose to. Thanks.
Thank you, Valerie, and now we'll hear from Shauna.
The reason I'm here is to, you know, just make people understand the impact that it has on people around you and on, you know, on yourself, and the ways in which you can make a change now for the better of the future, for the better of yourself, even if you don't have kids. I know we have a lot of talk about children and how they're affected, but there's a way that everybody can change, even if the rest of the world is saying, oh no, these are throwaways. But I understand why my stepfather was the way he was. I can kind of put myself there. Obviously, he's got a different story than me. It's never too late to make a change. Ever. Never, never. Thank you so much for listening and coming, and I just pray that you take something from here tonight.
And then, of course, this is a good question. Do you think that the justice system in Boulder County handles DV cases well or not? Do you want to answer that, Ted, or not?
Of course, I have no dog in this fight, but yes, we have one of the best DV systems in the state of Colorado and one of the best systems in the whole country.
I mean, the choice is, folks, we can do something or nothing.
Right.
Doing this works better than doing nothing.
We implemented DV empathy panels because there was research that showed it really helped offenders not re-offend, and that's really what we're out to do, is not have you guys come back. So we do a good job of it.